This is Tasia Podcast, a podcast that brings on discussions to enlighten and make you more civic-minded. I'm your host, Joseph Lazare. In this second episode of I Support a Peaceful Election show, we are going to discuss about good practices during campaigns for elective political positions. It is important to know that regulating campaigns to follow set code of conduct helps in preventing potential electoral conflict and violence. With me in today's show is Naisiae Lempushunah. She supports the peace campaign for a peaceful election. Naisiae, welcome to Tasia Podcast.
Okay, thank you so much, Joel, for having me. And my name is Naisiae Hirima Lempushunah. I am a journalist by profession, a graduate of Daystar University. I am currently not exercising my profession, but I'm doing community work. I'm programs officer for an organization called Community Safety Initiative. The organization has various themes, but currently we are focused on peace building and conflict transformation. I've been working for the peace building component for the last 2 years, leading almost 4 programs as the program person, and that's what I work at the moment. That's how my work related to peace work. I'm also currently leading a movement of young people called Youth Anti-FGM Network of Kenya. That's the Samburu chapter, whereby we are just a group of young people trying to educate our communities to embrace our cultures without embracing the bad side. Coming from a community where FGM is a major component, where early child marriages is a common component, we decided to come as young people who are educated, who have gone to see the other part of the world. We are coming to educate our community that we can still practice the most beautiful culture. We can still do our ceremonies without embracing the GBV part. So I think that's how I'm engaged right now at the community level.
Thank you so much, Naisiae. Being a member of Young, I'm so much aware of the amazing work that we're doing in the community. And I'm also aware of the great work of peace building that we're doing at CSI. Having in mind that this is a time in Kenya whereby we have the elections, campaigns going on, I saw that it is good for us to discuss on the issue of peace, maintaining peace during this time of election. So that's the reason why I decided to engage you on this discussion, a very, very important discussion on how we can engage other young people in the community to ensure that we promote peace during this election. Give some highlights of the current trends of bad political practices among the youth in Kenya today.
Joel, as you know that young people, youth, they're almost the most vulnerable people when it comes to bad influence by politicians. Most youths are used by politicians to spread misleading information on social media. For instance, at the moment, we have something called smartphone. You know that there is Facebook, there is WhatsApp, there is Telegram, there is Instagram, there is Twitter, and the most important one is Twitter. So you get to know that young people are being used by politicians to spread misleading information using the social media that are available at the moment in Kenya. So that I think that's one of the ways young people are being used to cause bad politics or to spread bad politics. Young people also use disrespectful words, especially those people who have different political ideologies or views. If I don't support your leader or your candidate, I'll definitely attack you on social media. I'll use disrespectful words to humiliate you and to humiliate you, the person you are supporting. So that's another way of how people are being used. Another one that is also, people are used to be sycophants, especially young people. By exchange of money, many people are unemployed at the moment in Kenya. When you look at I don't have the right statistics, but trust you me, there's so many people in these towns. They're just idle. The moment they see a politician giving them a few notes, maybe 200 Kenya shillings or 100 Kenya shillings, trust you me, those people will protect that politician as if he or she is their god. So there is also a component of being sycophants among young people to the politicians. Due to some few coins they are being given out of the maybe posting the politicians, young people are still being also used. They are being given bundles, internet bundles, or they're being bought bundles by politicians simply to mislead and spread wrong information through social media. So I think that's one of the ways Kenyan youths are being used.
So I think this issue with social media, so much being misused by young people to kind of spread information. And one thing that I've noted currently, young people don't even mind of the source of the information. They don't even mind that this information is going to cause some kind of maybe disruption in terms of the relationship on how our communities are staying together. So the moment the young people are given some money and they know that they are going to benefit from being the sycophant of the politician, then they don't mind the kind of information that they're sharing. That's one way, or that's one part that we as young people in this country are going wrong, whereby I think because of the employment, as you have said, unemployment, which is very high in the country. So young people have no other kind of work that they are doing. So they become prey of this politician. And then just by the fact that they're given some few shillings, and then they get into that kind of being used in the social media, and then they share information even without minding the effect of that information to the general public. So how do you think that we can be able to correct that as a society?
First of all, as young people, it's high time we come into terms that the small money that we are being given out by politicians will never satisfy our needs. It will never cater your entire life, the rest of your life. The 200 Kenyan shillings you want to sell your vote for will never bring change in this community. So I think it's high time we just accept that we need to work hard. We need to go and get our own money and not waiting for politicians to come and give you a 200 Kenya shillings for you to cause such kind of circumstance in social media. So I think one of the first things that we should do especially as young people, is that we accept the fact that these people, the politicians, they are looking for a seat. They are looking to be employed. They are coming to you because you are the ones who will employ them. So do not accept any form of bribery, any form of usage, like people want to use you. No, they are coming to look for employment. So you should sit down and tell them, how are you going to help us? If at all you are elected today, look at the manifestos of these politicians. Look at the way, what are they going to bring to our communities? Are they going to be like flower girls and flower boys at the parliament? Are they going to be just staying in the cities and leaving our people who elected them at the field without even the source of water? So we have to be intellectuals. We have to be allies. We have to bring change. It's upon us as young people to question these politicians. Now that you've gone to school, now that you've acquired that education, then you have a role as a young people to play, not to be a sycophant, not to use disrespectful words on social media, but to bring the change you want on your politicians, on the leaders you want to elect. So I think that's one of the ways. We just accept the fact that these people are coming for job. They're coming to ask for jobs, not to come and give you the small money they're coming to give you. Another thing is that let's tell our people, as young people, we know you have a voice in your community, especially if you respect yourself. You have a voice. Once the people you come and talk to your community, that let's select people basing on this and this, not on tribal lines, not on relative line, but basing them on developmental lines. So I think we also have a part to play on that.
Young people out there who are listening to us, I think it is the time that we have a stand as young people in this country. We know that we are the backbone of this country, so we should have a political stand that is focused on development and not on something that will go into our pocket. So I think that's a very, very good message from my side, that we should focus on the development and not on using politics, the short period of politics, to gain something or to gain some few money that will not even sustain us or will not even give us some capital to start our business. So just as the politicians are looking for jobs, also make sure that that politician has an agenda to give you job. What about the politicians? What are some of the failures of politicians during election campaigns?
Thank you, Joel. I think one of the most common one is bribing of the voters to influence support. I've gone to one of the rallies. It just happened that I was in the village and there was a rally. So I decided, let me go. Maybe this group have a major thing, a major development. They're coming on as part of their manifesto to come and read to our people. So at the end of it, people are given 50 Kenya shillings. 50 bob. You give a mother of five children. You give an adult, you give them 50 Kenya shillings after spending their entire day looking at you, praising you, singing for you, being under the sun. So that's one of the things, bribing of the voters to influence support. Also, there is another thing, is by incitement. Politicians have been inciting supporters against other political candidates. Instead of you coming and telling us you are manifestos, You are coming and telling us, do not allow this another team to come and talk here. They're not allowed to be part of here. They're not allowed to come to this area. So there is also that part of incitement, inciting supporters, your own supporters to not allow other candidates to have a right of campaigning at maybe some areas. Again, politicians don't have a substantive matters. They don't have content. They don't have, some of them just go there and talk about their opponent, not knowing that there are also intellectuals. There are people who know what they want as part of that rally. So coming there and talking about your opponent rather than telling us the ideas you're coming to implement when you're given that role, then we lose interest as voters. So politicians they're not focused. Honestly, they're not even the national figures in this country. Some of them just come and talk about an opponent rather than telling us what they want to do for the country. So I think that's one of the failures politicians are doing. They also use government infrastructures to access government equipment, for instance, vehicles, for them to assist them in their movement, maybe during the campaigns, which is wrong. A government should never rely on one side of the candidates that they are looking for votes. So I think that's one of the failures. Even if you are close to government, that one should never give you a go away or a leeway for you to use the government resources to campaign. They also the use of state services to buy voters. For instance, when you go for maybe for to Huduma Center or to Kipande House or to any government hold institution, you should never, simply because you are a politician. So maybe if I'm inquiring about maybe something on Huduma Center, then you don't have a say there. That's an independent government body. So I think also associating yourself to government is another something that politicians should not do. You should be an independent person who is looking for votes, not relying on the government simply because you want to win votes. So I think those are some of the failures politicians are doing during this campaign period.
Yes, Mr. Politician and Mrs. Politician, I think you have heard that, and we urge our politicians to have manifestos that are inspired by the social challenges that our communities are facing. So we don't want you, Mr. and Mrs. Politicians, to come and tell us to be against another competing candidate. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear politicians coming to give our people money, just some few shillings, so that they can vote them in. We need politicians who are inspired to come and have change. And also, when we talk about this issue where the politicians use state services, so it is very wrong, and it is something that we've been seeing. Politicians coming to tell the whole community that if you vote us in, then that is the time that will make sure that maybe you have a water project, you have a hospital, and you have that. That's not a manifesto. That is something that is your obligation. It's your role when you get into the office, but it should not be a campaign tool. So I think our politicians need to know that they should actually have substantial matters to discuss when they come to campaign, because that's actually a failure that I've also noted, as you have said, that is something that's being misused. You can just call people into your rally. Then when people come into your rally, then you start to attack another politician. So I think young people in this country should be courageous enough and confident enough to tell them on their faces, enough is enough. We need politicians who have content. We need politicians who have the interests of the Mwananchi at heart. So, and then another issue is, now that we've looked at the issue with the youth and also the issue with the Mr. and Mrs. Politician. So I think we also need to see which are some of the measures that the government is failing to put in place, and they should be in place in order to ensure that election campaigns are peaceful in this country, because we don't want to go back to the dark eras of the 2007 post-election violence and all that. This time around, we need our democratic process to be as smooth as possible, and we don't want any Kenyan to have a worry just because of an election is taking place in the country. So which are some of the measures that we think this government need to put in place?
One of the most and the major components that government should put in place is equal accessibility of media to everyone, to anyone who is involved in elections, especially this year. They should be given equal access to media. As you know, media is key factor in assuring transparency and accountability during campaigns. So if at all we want elections to be free, fair, and peaceful, then we should treat everyone with equality, giving them equal ground. So accessibility to media should be one of the ways government should do to ensure that the campaigns are peaceful and will be for peaceful elections. And just to mention, there are few roles of the media when it comes to elections, and one of them is the monitoring the electoral process. As you know, that majority of Kenyans, masses, millions of Kenyans will be watching through television or will be listening using their local radios. Even in our Manyatas, the people in Manyata will be listening via radios. So I think that's so we will be monitoring elections. We will get results via media. Most of us will not be, maybe in Bomas or wherever the elections will be announced, but we'll be using media to follow and to know how far are they, how far is your candidate, how far is your MP. So that's one of the roles of the media. Another role of the media is to relay and report on campaigns and messages of parties and candidates. I know without media, I honestly don't think we can have transparent elections. Also, media can be used to provide information to voters on candidates' specific electoral procedures and processes. Many people are learning through media. Even the candidates, they are learning a few procedures through the media. So I think those are the major roles of media when it comes to campaigns or towards elections.
Yes, I think that's it. You've seen the roles of the media when it comes to election. I think it's very, very paramount, because one thing that we've even seen in the national politics, that we have some politicians who are really complaining that maybe they are denied access to a certain maybe television stations or radio stations and all that. Just because we are differing in political ideologies, we should not deny any candidate a platform, either on the social media or on the traditional media like the radio or television station. So I think it's very, very important point that you highlighted there.
And also election legislations, I think, should ensure that all parties and candidates have equal access to the state's privately owned media, and they should also be treated fairly and equally by any state-owned media, for instance, KBC. And just to add on, or let me just digress from that. Recently, when they were being cleared by IEBC, one of the major things that came out from the presidential candidate is that they want equal treatment when it comes to visibility of their campaigns, visibility of what they are doing through media. So I think that's one of the major components that as a state we should be. Now that there is freedom of press in our country and we are really happy, everyone should be given equal and access media when it comes to their campaigns or when it comes to monitoring of election processes. Also, there is something on campaigning mechanisms, and legal framework also should provide robust and effective procedures and mechanisms through which candidates and members of the public can complain and disputes. It should be something that's present and active through all stages of the election cycle, including the voter registration, counting of the ballots, as well as appeal against restrictions placed upon observers. So it should be something active, not just having a mechanism there, but it's not working. Like you can't even, it's not working. So there's no need of having a mechanism that's not working. So the campaign mechanism should be something that's active and should be accessible. There is also effective sanctions. Last elections, people did not agree for the results, and they went to the court, and there are so many processes. But again, there were some medias that were, I don't know if it was two or one media house that was closed simply because they were hearing something that the state did not like. And those are some of the effective sanctions government should put in place in case of instances of corruption or manipulations. So sanctions to punish offenders should be used to prevent instances of corruption, behaviors, and manipulations.
Yes, I think that's it. It is always very good that we have some legislations that that also punish the offender legally, so that if someone goes against or defies the norms of an election process, and then that person or an organization or anyone who goes against the legal procedures of an election should also be able to be punished, so that other people can learn from that. So I think that is using effective sanctions or having effective sanctions is very, very important. Yes.
Just to add on it, like currently the IEBC, they are clearing candidates to look for to go and be the real politicians. They have not been real politicians. They have been aspiring, but now they are candidates. So I like the fact that they undergo vigorous processes. They even a document they acquire from anti-corruption. So if at all they are doing that as they start, if it could be better, it could be a good thing to do from today up to the end of the elections, just to prevent malpractices during elections and just to punish people who are not following the rules the ABC is putting in place. So I think they're doing a good thing. If you have any corruption cases, you are not allowed to go for seats. Why do you want to go for a seat and you are a corrupt individual? We are preventing some things by just allowing IBC to do such things. So I like the fact that IBC is doing a vigorous process to prevent individuals who are not eligible to go for some post in this country. So I think that's one of a plus thing, and I wish they could continue doing that even after the candidates go, after they are now free to go for any seat.
Yes, I think that's a key point, because we have actually seen that they are starting to tighten the laws. They are starting to make sure that these laws are actually applied, because one thing that we've been having, and actually things that you hear from Kenyans, is that sometimes we have some very good legal laws, the rule of law, but at some point it is compromised such that it is not followed. But at least we start to get, as people, we get the confidence when we see that these politicians or the candidates are actually made to undergo a very rigorous recruitment process as per the law, taking into consideration the integrity issues of some of them. So because we need to elect leaders, we don't need to elect people who have some other agendas of enriching themselves. So it is actually something that's very good. I think that one has some trust on the election process in this country, and we urge the government to continue actually until the end of the process and even after the election process, so that we ensure that every Kenyan is safe in all corners of this country. Yes, you can proceed.
Now, there's something also called political observation or political observers. And I think the legal framework should explicitly state that election observers can observe all stages of elections. Election is a process, not just a one-day event. Election is a process. So I think if that should be given rules to observers, like legal framework to them. This will help to ensure that there is transparency. First of all, there is transparency in elections and campaigns, and there is also something called accountability. Accountability, especially during the elections in campaigns. Also, this one will prevent instances of electoral fraud and is particularly good at helping to identify and reduce abuse of government resources. So I think that one is self-explanatory. Everyone can understand that as observers, there should be legal frameworks when it comes to observers of elections.
Can I add something on that?
Yes, please.
So in the election process, because election is a process, as you have said, we always have so many observers from civil societies. We have maybe from the legal framework, we have from the government, we have from candidates, and we also have international observers. And these observers, when they are given a conducive environment and support by the government, these observers are there to ensure that the election process is free, fair, and transparent. So they are the ones that the international community, people of Kenya, are looking to give them information that is not biased. We urge the government to give them a conducive environment. We don't want a situation whereby international observers are denied the chance and the right to actually inspect all the election processes in the country, so that they can't get some crucial information. Because you see, the information from these observers will help us when a dispute arises. We can be able to get information that can help us actually resolve the conflict or the disagreement from politicians. So I think election observation is very, very important part of the election process, and we really urge the government to take into consideration making sure that the international observers and the local observers from civil society and even private observers are given actually permission to carry on their duty of observing the election process from the campaign period now, on the day of election, and even after, when the ballots are being counted and announced. Peaceful election process must be guided by some principles. There should be some principles that the government, other stakeholders, and the general public should observe, so that we know that this election is truly a successful democratic process that everyone is satisfied with it. So just kindly guide us with some few principles that you think we should observe during an election process.
Okay, thank you. And these are the principles that will guide the campaigner, the campaigns, general public, the oversight bodies, and for everyone who is engaged when it comes to elections. And I think one of the value thing, a principle that all those people who are engaged in in elections should have is integrity. Integrity is like being honest and having strong morals. Be either you are a campaigner, your integrity should be of a high level. Your integrity should not be questionable. Be it you are an oversight body, electoral oversight body, your integrity should not be questioned by the public. So I think integrity is one of the major principles that should guide these elections in Kenya. Another thing is transparency. I mean, if you're conducting elections that involve me directly as a voter, and you're not giving me the real thing, you're not being honest with me, you're not giving me the real facts, the real figures on what's going on. Maybe when it comes to counting, then there is a gap. So transparency at all levels, be it counting, be it like everything, be it counting, be it accessibility of all the elections materials, there should be transparency at all levels. That's one of the key principles that should guide us, that should be a thing that should come out during these election processes. Another rule that should be there, or another principle rather, is participation. Elections is a process, as we said earlier. So if I don't have a right to participate in it, then it's not an election. So there should be participation from the voter, from the candidates, from the oversight bodies, from everyone who is involved in elections. There should be something called participation. Give me my right to participate in elections. I have a right to choose a person, a candidate of my own interest. So I think participation should also be something that we should see during these elections. There's also something called the rule of law. There should be a rule of law. So I think when it comes to elections, we should see the rule of law taking part, as in taking a major part, integral part during these election processes. Professionalism. I mean, if we can't display professionalism, then there's no need of us going for elections. Professionalism, be it for the oversight bodies, that's or IBC or any other body that's involved directly to elections. Professionalism as an individual. If you don't carry yourself with professionalism, then there is something comes out of it, which is disrespect. So professionalism also should be something that we should display as Kenyans, as politicians, as voters, as IBC. We should act as professionals. I think when you go to a place with professionalism, then everyone will probably respect you, or you get some kind of respect. So professionalism should always be part of anything, any elections. There's also something called independence. IBC is an independent body. That's why it's called IBC. They should put things into place, just IBC alone as in an independent body. So I think that's one of the core principles that we should see during these elections, especially now that IBC, they displayed a good image during last elections by giving individuals rights to go to court and to nullify elections. So I think it's an independent body. So they should be independent when it comes to elections. They should not rely on one side, or they should be an independent body. That's why they are called IBC. I think those are the main core principles that we should observe during election campaigns by all stakeholders, by all people who are engaged through in these elections, especially if you are involved directly. Those are the main key principles that I think we should display as a nation.
So principles are like pillars. They make the whole process stand out. They make the whole process admirable. They give it credibility, and they give trust to the process. And I think that is very, very important for the whole process, when it is credible, okay, when it is actually authentic. So I think all those pillars, all those principles act as pillars, as you have mentioned and explained. So, and the government and everyone who is in the process, you as an individual, the bodies, oversight bodies, the government, and other stakeholders should ensure that these pillars, which are the principles that we have talked about, the issue to do with integrity, transparency, participation, lawfulness, professionalism, and independence should be observed. So I think that those are the pillars that I also think they're very, very important. And I hope also they're in the documents that and the rule of law that is being followed in this country. Just give us your own opinion on the ongoing elections campaign in Kenya as a closing remark.
Thank you so much, Joel. And just to close or to give my closing remarks, I just want to remind, especially during these election campaigns in Kenya, I just want to remind Kenyans that after the campaigning period, Kenya will still be there. After the elections and people win and others lose elections, you and me will still be there. Me and you will always need each other. You as an individual, you will still remain to be you. Either, be it your candidate wins, be it my candidate, be it anyone's candidate win, all of them will win. And this is not the first elections we are going as a country. We've been going for elections. So I think one of the things we should learn is that elections is just like, it's something that comes and passes. But me and you will always be friends. Me and you will always need each other. So the election campaign should not break us, should not bring any enmity between me and you. There is Kenya after elections. There is me and you after elections. Let this campaigning period do not break us. Do not break the bond we have. Do not break our families. Do not break Kenya. Do not break us into tribal lines. There is Kenya, that we will be there after elections. And also to remind Kenyans, after elections, after these individuals are elected, you even go for 3 years without seeing your area MCA in your own area, village, and he's supposed to be in your village. He goes to Nairobi, stays in suburbs of Nairobi, Kileleshwa, Lavington, but you and me, we will change the state of our living. It's us. So do not betray me, do not betray your family, your neighbor, simply because of an individual who is looking for a job. Vote wisely. Vote for people who want to bring change. Vote for developmental leaders. Do not vote for someone because he or she is your cousin. He or she comes from your clan. He or she comes from your tribe. No. Bring change by voting for the people who will bring change, who will bring change to your community. So I think that's all from my end, and thank you for having me. Let's always choose peace as a nation. Tuchague amani. Asante sana.
It's been a pleasure having you. We are very much glad to have hosted you at Naisiae Podcast. We thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be our guest today, and for the powerful message that you are giving to this country. We say thank you so much, and may God bless you.
Thank you. Asante sana.